Check it out. Here's my shiny new Microsoft official Excel 2019 Associate Certificate. But something's missing. Oh yeah, check out my perfect score that I got on the Excel 2019 exam. Hey Office professionals, I'm here to help you learn more about Microsoft programs so that you can earn more money, earn that dream job, and maybe even impress a few colleagues and your bosses. So the one way to do that is to get a perfect score on the Excel exam or just pass the Excel exam so that you can have industry standard skills and be confident using them in Excel. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 Excel projects, and by the end of this video, you're going to be an Excel wizard. So let's get started. All right, so in this first project, we're working for Dino Toys, and we're going to use some Excel features to see if we can spot some trends in our data. So before we get started, I've got to share one exam tip for you for this project, and that is to make sure you're on the right worksheet when you're making changes, because, for example, the one that we're currently on, if we go to so we're currently on the 2021 projections worksheet in our workbook, and if we click over to the 2020 sales, you might notice that they're almost identical, and that'll happen on your exam, and will also happen in the real world if you're working on workbooks with a lot of worksheets. Some might be similar. Heads up for that one. That's my exam tip. Make sure you're on the right worksheet before you get started. So with that being said, we're going to go to the 2020 sales worksheet. We're going to make sure we're on that one. And then in cells F3 to F12, we're going to add some conditional formatting so that when there's a value in that range that's over 10 million, it spots it and turns the text yellow with a dark yellow background. So that's kind of a cool feature in Excel, conditional formatting. So we're going to make sure, again, that we're on the right worksheet, 2020 sales. And then we're going to highlight the correct range, which is F3 to F12 in this range, in this worksheet. And then once you've got that highlighted, go up to the conditional formatting options here in the Home tab. Once we click on that, you'll see a bunch of options now. When it comes to the Excel core exam, you won't go much further than the highlight cell rules or the top and bottom rules. And you might even just have to add a few icon sets like the flags and things like that you can add. But as far as more advanced conditional formatting, that's more for the Excel expert exam. So most likely in these 2 options here if you have to add conditional formatting. But the one we need is the highlight cell rules, and we want the one greater than. And then you can just manually type in 10 million. It's a lot of zeros. And then change the color to yellow fill with dark yellow text and light yellow fill, and then press OK. And then it spotted the values that are over 10 million, and the ones that aren't, it just kind of left it alone. So that's how conditional formatting works. Task 2 asks us to go to the 2021 projections worksheet. So remember to hop on over to the next worksheet. Don't make the changes on the last worksheet there we were on. So again, make sure you're on the right worksheet for your exam. And then we're going to enter a formula in the empty column that multiplies the values from Q3 by this % here. But there's a little trick at the end. It says use the range in the formula instead of a cell reference or value. So we want to refer to this cell, but use the name that they're calling it, which is the Q3 increase. So someone like yourself has named this, or maybe a colleague has already named this. And it's really a great thing to name certain cells so that if that number changes for whatever reason, you don't have to go back and like manually update the formula. So you could just give it a name, you could change this number, and anything associated with this number would change as well. So that's why you kind of name cell ranges or cells, single cells like this one. So we're going to use that in a formula. So this is how we type it. So for formulas and functions, always start with the equal sign. Equal. We're going to multiply this value, so we'll just grab this, and this one has a name as well, right? So it's this column had its own name, Q3, so not technically like a traditional cell reference. And then we're going to multiply this by clicking the Shift key on your keyboard, and then 8. So Shift 8 has that little star. That means we're going to multiply this value, and we don't want to click on this cell. We want to type in Q3 increase, but if you just start typing Q3, it'll pop up as one of the so there's 2 name ranges, the Q3 column and then the Q3 increase, which refers to the 104%. So we'll just double click on that, and then all you have to do from there is just press enter. And now we can just copy this down using the autofill handle. So we're just going to drag this down to copy the formula to the rest of this empty cells, drop it, And there you go. We filled out column 4, or quarter 4, the quarter 4 column. And again, we're going to jump over to another worksheet that looks identical to the one we're currently on. So we're going to go over to the 2020 sales worksheet, and then in cell B16, we're going to use a function to display the highest sale from the range B3 to E12. Okay, so notice that keyword there, the highest, which means the maximum function, which the maximum function is going to look at the highest value in a range, and it's going to tell you exactly what number is the highest value. So maybe in this one we want to look at all the sales through quarter 1 through quarter 4 and see what our highest number was. And you can do that in cell B16 by typing in equal. Again, it's a function, so start out with equal, and then max, which is the highest value, open bracket, and then we're going to select our range. And I can just type in the range, or you can select. I like manually selecting just to make sure that I've got the range correct. So I'm just going to start in B3 and highlight all the way to E12 and drop it. And then I'm going to use a closing parenthesis here and press enter. And my number is too big because that's a huge number. So if that ever happens to you in Excel, all you got to do is just drag this to the right a little bit so your number isn't squeezed inside of that cell, because it's a huge number. It's $45 million. So that was our highest sale through quarters 1 through 4. For task 4, we're going to go to the revenue split worksheet. Actually, it should say chart sheet because it's a whole chart. Swap the data over the axis. So we're going to go there. So what that means is we're just going to switch the legend and the independent variable. So right now we're measuring how much each toy dinosaur sold for. And if we swap the data over the axis, then it will measure how much was made in each quarter. And that's what we really want to measure. So when we click on the chart, we have the chart design options here. So click on the chart design tabs. So also remember to click on the chart so this becomes active. If you're like, where is this? I can't find it. You just got to click on the chart for this to become active. So to swap the row and column or switch it, both words are synonymous with each other. So swap the data over the axis. The data being created charted on the x-axis will move to the y-axis and vice versa. So the independent variable becomes the dependent variable and vice versa. And now we're going to measure how much is made in each quarter versus how much each dinosaur made. So when we switch, it looks like that. So yeah, we could get into like why that happens and what independent variables and dependent variables are, but I've got something much cooler to show you. Okay, allow me to geek out over Excel for just a little bit. I'll show you this skill that you might not be aware of that you can do in Excel. And because we're doing this Dino Toys kind of theme with this project, let me show you something cool. So you can insert 3D shapes in Excel just like you would with Word and PowerPoint. But I think we can find a really good one under the stock 3D models options. And you can see here we've got all animated models. So we'll go there and pick out one of my favorites, this T-Rex running towards someone. And we'll insert it, and we'll make this guy nice and big. Although, just keep in mind, including 3D models can really up the size of your file, so it's hard to send if you do that. But, you know, if you want to keep an audience awake, if you're presenting numbers to people, this might be a way to, you know, keep them awake. So now we're on this sports team project 2 for this practice exam, and if I can share another exam tip for you, exam tip 2 for this is know your functions. And if you really want to know your functions, I'll post a link below. I've got a video, kind of a cheat sheet on all the Excel functions that you could be asked on your exam. We're going to use 2 tricky ones in this project. So let's get started. So the first task says, on the player stats worksheet, we're going to change the horizontal alignment of the players' names to the left indent, set the indent to 1. So it just wants it to like indent it from the left corner, or sorry, left side of this column. This is how you do that. So if it's text alignment, we're just going to highlight the players' names, or yeah, this is, sorry for the being unoriginal and just putting player 1 through 10. Here we go. So we'll highlight that range. And then in the alignment group, in this dialog box launcher here, we're going to click that to open the alignment settings. And then we want to change the horizontal one to left indent, and then by 1. Okay, set the indent to 1, press OK, and you see the text moves over a little bit. For task 2, we're going to insert a spark line to help us identify trends in the goals that are scored for our whole team. So in this column here, the trend column, we're going to put our cursor there, and then we're going to go to the Insert tab, and then look for a type of sparkline. So it's the sparkline group here, and then you have to be careful to choose the right one. So it's either line, column, or win-loss. We're going to choose column for this one. And then we want the data range. It's a little bit tricky because we don't want those total goals in there. We just want the goals per month in there. So we want the data range to be for this first one. And if you're doing this on your exam, get the first value first, and then you can copy this down. So we want it, yeah, we want the first one in J4, and then we want the range to be from January to June. We'll press OK. And there's our little trend on how the player is doing and how many goals are being scored per month. And then you can just copy that down. And then it gets a trend for all of the values here. So for task 3, we're going to add a total row to the table, but there's a little twist to this one because we're going to configure the total row to display the total number of goals or points each month. So I'll show you what that little twist is. So when we click inside of the table and then we go to the table design tab and then add our total row, what it does is it wants to calculate the number of the column to the furthest to the right, but that's not what we want. So we're just going to say none there. So use that little drop arrow to say none. We don't want that total coming up, we want this one coming up. So you can just click inside there. It has this automatic drop arrow there because the whole row, every cell in that row has this option, and then you can choose like different functions and formulas, which is really cool. But we're just going to use the sum here to get the total, and that's how you can add a total row, but you don't necessarily need the default sum from the last column in the table. All right, so task number 4 is going to introduce us to the first function question of this project, and it's going to ask us to use a function to count the number of months with no goals or points scored for each player. So what it's asking us to do is count how many blank values there are. So if you left some blank like this one here, how many of those in that range would there be? So for each player, we're going to calculate how many months they had like no goals or no points scored. So we're going to type in equal count blank and then open parentheses, and then we'll get the range. Again, we're ignoring the total. We just want to see the goals over the months of the season. And then closing parentheses, press enter. And because it's a table, it'll copy the formula down. So don't be freaked out if that happens on your exam. If you're entering a formula within a table, it'll copy it down automatically. For task number 5, we're going to change the elements displayed in the chart by changing the layout of the chart. So yeah, that's a really quick way to change a lot of what the chart looks like. So the first thing you have to do is click on the chart and then click on chart design. And in the quick layout, we're going to choose, what was it, to layout 5. Okay, question 5, layout 5. So it adds a chart title, data table, all that, major grid lines, things like that. So that's what layout 5 looks like, and we'll choose it there. It completely changes the look of our chart. All right, for this last task in this project, we're going to create a brand new email address by joining the player's first name with the address at teamname.ca. So we'll hop on over to the other worksheet, and you're thinking of a function that joins things together. That's the concat function. So we don't call it the concatenate function anymore. I'll show you what I mean. So we'll type in equal concat. And notice how there's like a little warning sign that says don't use concatenated anymore. I'm not sure why that is, but we're just going to use concat when you want to join things together. So we want to join the player's first name with the email address. So I'm going to say equal concat, open parentheses, and then I'm going to click this insert function button here to open up the insert function dialog box, just because this is friendly and will help let me know if I've made an error before we complete the function. So here we go. So text 1 is, we can use this cell reference here. So player 1, that's their first name. And then you can type or copy and paste this, but just don't forget to put, if you're using text within a formula or function, to surround it with quotation marks. So open quotation mark, close quotation mark, teamname.ca. It'll join those two together, and then when we press OK, it looks like that. So then you can just drag the autofill handle down so that players 1 through 10 have a new email address. So now we're on project 3, and my third exam tip for you would be if you see text in your exam instructions, like the text from task 1 here where it's underlined, they want you to type it out and type it somewhere, but you can save yourself some time. Instead of typing this out, you can just click on it once, and then it's copied to your exam clipboard, and then you can just paste it wherever it needs to be pasted. So instead of running the risk of having a spelling error or wasting time typing all of this out, you can just click on it, paste, and a really quick way to complete this task. So we're going to, from the existing text in cell B3, we're going to insert a hyperlink to this website with a screen tip that displays company website. So both things you could copy and paste over inside of the hyperlink dialog box. So we'll just highlight this cell here, B3, and it's the merge cell B3, and then we'll go to our link options, or just click link here. That'll open up this hyperlink dialog box, and then you can just paste the address once you've clicked on it. So just paste it there, and then you could also copy and paste that, but I'll just type to show you there's two methods of doing this, so you can also just type it if you feel more comfortable typing. Company website, and then press OK. So this is the website that it's going to go to. This is the text that displays, and then if someone hovers their mouse over top of the screen tip, they should see company website. So there it is. Now when we hover our mouse over it, it says company website, and it will take us to the website that we want it to. So that's great, and we've completed task 1. So task 2 is a universal question, which means if you've ever taken a PowerPoint exam or a Word exam or an Excel exam, you'll probably get this question on there. So you could get it on all 3, or probably even more than that. But let's go ahead and do this. So this is in the Backstage, the File tab. We're going to remove hidden properties and personal information from the workbook, and then just kind of ignore other content. So the way you would do that is click on the File tab. We'll go to the Info part down here and click on that. And then we're just going to look for Check for Issues. And then we want the Inspect Document one, which is going to check the workbook for hidden properties or personal information. So that pretty much just spells it out. That's exactly where we need to go. You might have to click Yes, like I did. And then just inspect everything. We're not removing anything yet. And then only remove this. So remove all document properties and personal information. Remove them all, and then just close this, and that's how you complete that task. Now task 3, in the selling status column, we want to display bestseller if, so notice that word, that's the keyword, if the average sales is more than or equal to 1,000. Now they might throw you off because this sounds like we're calculating the average, but really what we're doing is if the average column is greater than a certain number, then we're going to display bestseller, and if it's below that number, we're going to display below expectations. So the if function, there's 2 outcomes. It's either bestseller or below expectations. There's nothing in between. It's just a simple if function, and the number that we're looking for is, there's a few ways you could write this, but that's what's nice about these Certiport exams. As long as the if function works, how exactly you write this is really up to you, but as long as it works where the number would be just above 1,000 and it would say bestseller. So type in equal if, open parentheses. So I'm going to click in here, the insert function button, to pull up this dialog box. So this is a little bit more forgiving, this function arguments dialog box, than just typing it out. So our logical test is the value in here greater than 1,000? I believe did it say greater than or equal to? You should pay attention to that. So is more than or equal to. Okay, so then we could put greater than or equal to symbol, right? Because you could be right on 1,000 and it's still a bestseller. Greater than or equal to 1,000. And if it's true, then we just want to type in the word bestseller. Again, you could just copy this if it's one of those underline words and then paste it here. Just make sure there's quotations around it, but we'll type it out. Bestseller, end quotation marks, and this is value of false, below expectations. So one or the other. And then again, remember with text values inside of a formula, surround them with quotation marks. So we'll press OK. And then because it's a table, the formula got copied down, and you can quickly spot which ones are bestsellers versus ones that aren't. So now for step 4, we're on the bookstores worksheet, and in the city code column, we're going to modify the existing formula to display the letters in uppercase. So instead of having to type those out again and do them in uppercase, we can just wrap the upper function around the left function that already exists. So we'll do that in the first cell. So we'll go to the formula that already exists and just type in upper. Doesn't have to be capitalized, but I chose to, and then open parentheses, and then we have to wrap it around the existing numbers. So closing parentheses here, press enter, and now the formula gets copied down and it's capitalized all the letters. So that's pretty cool. You can add some functions to save you some time there. And that's a little bit of embedded functions. It can get more complicated than that, but that's all you'll be expected to do for your Excel core exam. Now for step 5, we're going to perform a multi-level sort for the table, and then we're going to sort the table by bookstore, so the bookstores column, and then by the total Q1 revenue. But that bookstores column is going to get the priority, and then once that's been sorted into alphabetical order, the next column will get sorted by largest to smallest values. Okay, so to do that, just quickly click anywhere inside of the table, doesn't matter. And then if it was a structured range, you'd have to highlight the range, but with tables, you can just click anywhere. And then in the data tab, there's this little button here that it's going to allow you to sort multiple tables at the same time. So we'll click that. And the first one we're going to sort by is the bookstores column. So we'll just choose bookstores. It's already in alphabetical order, so that's great. And then we have to click add level. So then it's going to sort by the total Q1 revenue cell, but then we just have to change this to largest to smallest. And if you're doing something with dates, it's good to use a custom list, because if you do that in alphabetical order, it's not going to work, especially for months and days of the week. So you can choose some of the custom options here, but we don't have to do that. We just have to change this from largest to smallest. Then when you click OK, this is what it looks like. So now it's organize the bookstores from alphabetical order, and then within those bookstores it'll tell you which one was the generated the most revenue at the top there. Now if you guys could help me out, that would be great. If you could let me know in the comments section below this video, what was the toughest task that you saw in this video. If you guys could let me know down below this video, that would be great. Good feedback for me. And I'll have another 3 projects coming out next week, so you'll see that in the bottom right of your screen. Check that out, and we'll see you in that video next week. Bye.